Thanks for watching this installment of Leading Through the Master Schedule, a video series about scheduling, equity, and access in education. In this video, we're going to learn how we can declutter and simplify our schedules to make sure we don't have too many constraints that may result in unintended consequences. First, your scheduling team should draft a list of all the things that create constraints in the schedule. Then, you can categorize them based on whether they are hard constraints or things that simply cannot be avoided.
So we all know that every schedule is going to have constraints, but we also know that we're going to have preferences. And knowing the difference between the two is really, really crucial if you're going to create a schedule that is truly student-driven. So when we think about hard constraints, these are the things that truly cannot be changed. So that might be a facilities need that you have. That might be a collective bargaining agreement, something that the union has stipulated is really important. A preference, on the other hand, is something that may have just arisen over time. So this teacher always has prep at this time, or this staff member always teaches this course. Or perhaps we always like to have a transition at this time in the day because we think that this is historically what has worked well for us. Those are all important considerations, but they are preferences that can and should be considered if adjusting them actually improves outcomes for students.
There are all kinds of trade-offs that create unnecessary constraints in our schedules. Here are a few common constraints that are worth looking at together. Part-time teachers are wonderful. They can help your school offer new subjects and provide support to staff, but they can also create bubbles of capacity in your schedule. When you have to accommodate a part-timer's schedule, you won't have full flexibility in placing those subjects. So consider carefully whether the trade-off is worth it.
A lot of times in the master schedule, we're really reactionary. I mean, my goal right now is to be proactive. So I need to know the percentages of my ELs in each class and course number, the percentages of 504s, the IEPs. I need to know those numbers before I even put my first singleton course down so I can make sure that I have the supports in place for those students to access those courses.
Singletons are courses that are only offered as a single section or to a single group of students at a specific time. Make sure to ask if the singleton is worth offering, given the expense of not all course requests getting satisfied. More often than not, singletons have lower enrollment as they're hard to place effectively. Moreover, ask yourself, who is accessing these courses? Does this have an impact on equity? You may want to audit your list of singletons each year to identify opportunities to cut courses or expand enrollment to open up multiple sections. This increases both equity and efficiency. Low course requests happen when teachers love the class, but many kids may not. Sometimes classes fall out of style, and it's time to let them go. Be on the lookout for classes with very low enrollment. Are these classes serving students? If so, what happens if they aren't requested? For classes like these, you may need to give counselors a timeline to market and recruit these classes. Give a deadline to meet sufficient enrollment numbers and cut the courses if they don't meet that number. This may result in difficult conversations with students, families, and teachers bought into this content, but remind them that low class sizes in one course will ultimately lead to higher class sizes in another. The constraints of collective bargaining agreements also need to be factored in.
The hard constraints for me in particular is, so we have teachers who teach a 0 period. And if they teach a 0 period, they have to have 3rd or 6th off. And I really deal with that by making sure I'm balancing their schedule first as a whole. I don't look at the individual teacher. I look at everybody with that 0 period to balance those 3rd and 6th.
In some districts, teachers can see only so many students, and in others, students with IEPs can't make up more than 20% of their class. When you get to your course tally, be sure to review these constraints ahead of time and do this math right away so that you understand the constraints before you get too deep into the scheduling process. This will ensure you don't end up shuffling students around at the last minute, compromising the schedules they've requested. Finally, when every class has multiple levels, like remedial, general, honors, and AP, this can result in cohorting students unintentionally, creating lanes for students that make it difficult for them to get classes later on, and perpetuating inequity in the classroom. Think about other ways you can address the needs of students at different levels, like honors by contract or AP for all programs, pairing challenging courses with supports such as AVID, and stacking smaller AP or honors sections on top of general education courses. Providing this level of support can go a long way toward increasing equity and ensuring that the playing field is fair. While these all represent common examples of constraints in the schedule, it's likely that your school has others as well that you're juggling. To meet the needs of your students and staff, it will serve you well to take the time to list all your constraints, categorizing each as a hard constraint or a preference. Do this as a team to build transparency into your process, and have the hard conversations that will be needed to do this right. How can you loosen these constraints and put students at the center of your schedule? Thanks for watching. You can find more videos, worksheets, and other resources here.